Officially recording. Mr. Brad Yzermans from California. How are you doing today, sir?
You're good, Michael. Thank you very much.
Of course, man. Hey, I totally appreciate you hanging out. And as happens sometimes on these hangouts, I try to do the Facebook Live, and the internet speed between Michigan and California is, I don't know, I got stuck in Nebraska or something like that. But actually, none of that really matters. All that matters is that Brad wanted to take some time today to talk about something he did in his career, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And it's made a big difference to him. It's really allowed him to write his own ticket. And, I mean, the amount of leads that you have coming in every month without paying is ridiculous. It's over 100, right?
Yeah, probably 100, 125 a month in terms of leads. And it's really given me the ability to not rely on referrals, which is completely opposite and contrary to the entire industry, which is my whole purpose. So I was always trying to be different and do something different.
Right.
And, there's lots of reasons. We can go into a little later on that.
You still do get some referrals, though, past clients and a few partners here and there, right? Or you pretty much get zero referrals?
Pretty much zero. I don't have a CRM. I don't market to any of my past clients. I have not one referral agent or CPA or no one. So it's all completely myself.
So a completely different model than what a lot of people have going.
Right.
But your model is I mean, it's a blog website based model, and you've built your content out now over a long period of time. When did you originally start doing this?
Yeah, so I started this actual website, homeloanartist.com. I probably launched it in very early part of 2010, January, February.
Okay.
And I did get into the blogging game a little before that. And I was introduced to that by some people may know Jonas Krukeberg. And
Yep.
he and I started in the industry literally at the same company, same time, same training class, and sat next to each other for a year and a half with the company we worked at. And he was a little more innovative with that. And I picked up on that, and I joined him with a company called First Party Financial, which was bought out by Caliber. So I was there for 4 years, and that's where Brian and Steve, Frank and Brian worked for, and that's where they started their Think Big.
Okay. I never put that together. I didn't realize that those guys were all tied together.
Yeah. So they separated entities, quite a few years ago. I'm not sure when, but that's where I was introduced to some really cutting-edge marketing tactics, and they were really early on in the video game,
Right.
and they were teaching us LOs at First Party Financial, and a little bit about blogging, kind of more video blogging. I did attempt to create and develop and launch several videos for marketing purposes. It was very early on in the game. We're talking 2009, 10, so we didn't really know quite as much what really worked back then. I finally realized that I was really bad on video, and I really didn't want to put the time into getting better at it. Just personally, I'm just not really good in front of a camera, especially when trying to memorize what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So anyways, I ventured out into the actual content marketing, which is really just blogging with just the written word. And Jonas actually started that before I did, and we started with a large group of people.
So for those who don't know Jonas is what? Top of mind, right?
He's one of the top guys at Top of Mind, exactly. So he got out of the mortgage industry into the mortgage business, I guess mortgage services industry with Mark Green over there.
Right.
And does a great job there. That's a great product. Used it for many years.
Right. But it's the same concept. It's content marketing. In this case, it's helping the LOs who in many cases struggle with their content.
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally get it. So do you, when you're putting your blog together and you're building your site and, creating all your articles, do you start out with a skeleton framework that you've kind of got from somewhere else, or do you just whip all the ideas out of your head? I mean, because I know I have other friends that do a lot of blogging, and that they're always going back and forth. Like a ghostwriter, I got people helping doing transcriptions and having them converted to a website. Well, what's your method for getting solid content?
So, this is an interesting process. So when we first started out blogging back in 2009, 10, 11, it was pretty scary. I mean, in terms of trying to organize your thoughts, it's very challenging to organize thoughts on a topic. It's probably similar to if you're putting together a seminar, trying to organize that, get your process and your flow, and try not to stray from that. Writing is probably even more difficult, I think. For me, it's not a quick process. Some people can knock out a good blog article in an hour or two. Mine's much more than that to make it good, and it's a learning process. I was not a good writer ever, I watched other people to see how they were structuring their blog posts, what they were doing. There was no one teaching us that really. I learned most of what especially on the technical side, from Mark Madsen, who's been in the blog game is just about as early as anybody. I followed early on Dan Green and the mortgage reports, and then also Rhonda Porter. Her site is the Mortgage Porter, I believe. And they were very early on innovators in the mortgage blog marketing industry. And I watched how they were writing their content. And they probably have similar stories, how they've evolved in what they wrote, how they wrote. And a lot has changed. I mean, so much has changed with Google in terms of what they like to serve up in the search engines. So it's a real learning process. Best advice I could give someone is to go look to see how they're structuring their posts. But I try and answer the main questions that surrounding any topic that people may ask, and that's the who, what, why, where, when type questions, and they're trying to address those in the blog article and try and organize it as simple as possible, because when people land on a blog post, you've got their attention for 15 seconds. So you've got to capture their attention really quick.
So that was one of the questions that we talked about right in the beginning was, when you got the content going and you're starting to pull up on higher in Google, that's great. It's all well and good to get some views and some clicks and stuff like that, but clicks don't necessarily equal paychecks. So how do you get from the process of, okay, my blog is up there, I've got better content, I'm maybe backlinking, and I'm doing a good job of optimizing the questions people are looking for, and my articles are short and all of those things that you'll hear when you're talking to folks all over the country about how to blog. Then okay, somebody saw my article and they actually scheduled time to talk with me, or they reached out for more information. So I think that's the connect piece that I sometimes see folks struggling with. It's you don't win until you capture some information, until you get a chance to talk to a qualified prospect.
Right. So this is a whole process. I probably can't answer it all right now, but
I know I tend to ask 5 questions at once. I do that.
So let's go back a little bit to the whole purpose of blog marketing and content marketing was to create a brand, essentially an online reputation, and that was really the whole purpose for it. I didn't want to do it through video, and I didn't want to do it through the real estate community by, doing whatever most LOs do to do that. So trying to create a brand. The great thing about blogging is you control that message, that word, and it's online forever. It's what we call evergreen. So I've got posts that are generating leads that I wrote 5 years ago. And it may have taken me a couple hours to write a really good post and create some links to it and get it out on some social media areas and some shares. But it can produce for years later. So it's got a long shelf life. But there's no guarantee. Google can make changes, and if they see better content, they're going to serve that up over yours. So. You mentioned about short blog posts. Ideally now you want long posts. The longer the better. Okay. So, 1,000, 2,000 word blog posts are really good.
Cool.
And you've got to be really organized in how you do that.
Do you put a lot of links throughout the post, that like backlinks to other reference pages? And
so
I've noticed like sometimes you'll send people to like a HUD website or a VA website in your articles.
Yeah. So in any blog post, you're going to want to link out to some credible sources. So I'll often link out to an FHA or Fannie or wherever to back up your. It's almost like writing an article. How you had to document your sources of the information. So you link out there, and also you want to link into other articles. So you want I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 different links in your blog post.
So you link to articles like within your blog.
Yeah.
So if somebody's reading an article about an RD loan, and they have, at one point it talks about applying. I noticed I've read a couple of your RD posts and your VA posts, and they're really, really good. And I actually found them just by typing the search tool, and then I typed Temecula, California. You're almost always at the top. And I noticed that when I go through the blog, exactly what you said, like you'll have a question about applying, I'll click on a link, it takes me to another section in your blog where it describes what kind of documents you'll need for a good mortgage application.
Yeah. So you can you want to link all your articles together as much as possible.
Right. So they're not. I mean, they're going to external sites, but the external sites they're going to are maybe like HUD or VA.
Right.
And
exactly.
Everything else internal leads back to you. Is kind of what I noticed how you've done it.
I'll sometimes link out to another source, maybe another mortgage blogger, if they're not in my market, not in California, or even if they are, someone who we don't cross paths. So I'll link out there and share some link love. It's I'm giving some credibility to their site. I really haven't done a lot of link building ever. I've never done any black hat SEO. It's all been, just organic. And I probably don't have a whole lot of inbound links. But I do have age. The age of my site is another ranking variable that helps. And, Google, I know a couple times they've reviewed my site. So you want to build up a site that's authentic. You don't want duplicate content. You can't copy and paste, something from someone else's site.
Right.
You don't want any duplicate content.
I mean, that goes down to even like sentences. Like you could copy a portion of a paragraph. Google knows. I mean, they do. Yeah. So your site will get penalized if you've got a lot of duplicate content, and you can fall off the search engines really quick if you're doing that, and you won't get any organic placement. You won't get any search results. Trying to get back to how to convert that traffic. So I've got maybe it can be, depending on the time of year, 6,000 to 10,000 people that are visiting my site a month, and a lot of that I found is a lot of industry people searching for answers. They're typing in questions. They're surfing my site for loan limits or something. A lot of realtors. I get a lot of realtors, asking questions and actually, if I get a referral, the only time I ever get an agent referral is probably because an agent finds my stuff online and they're like, crap, I've got this borrower who needs maybe an assistance program or some other niche program that I've written about, and they're calling me because they feel like I've shared a lot of information and been very educational, and they want someone who's like transparent. So that's another purpose for the whole blog is I want to be open, honest, and transparent. I was really sick of being surrounded by loan officers who just real shady, like we all are. So this is one way to share the knowledge that a lot of lenders, and I know it's a valid sales technique, but you don't really share that information until you get them to give you all their documents to get them pre-approved. I'm kind of the opposite. I give them all the information up front, and I build trust and credibility, which is the number one thing. When anyone's searching online, you need that trust. So trying to build that trust in 10 seconds is. Well, it seems like everybody else these days is talking about building your trust and your credibility through like your reviews. You don't really lean on that a whole lot on your site, do you?
I don't have any reviews on my site. I collect them over at Google. So you mentioned about referral partners. I always, people often ask, and I didn't say it, but Google is my number one referral partner. I believe, I've got a better relationship with Google than almost anyone has with an agent.
Right.
I don't have to pay Google for anything.
Right.
Google likes me. They serve up my site. They refer my site to, 6 to 8, 10,000 people a month. You don't have an agent that does that anywhere in your town. They don't contact 10,000 people.
You're serving Google. You're keeping them engaged with Google.
Right.
It's very similar to what I talk about when I'm talking about Facebook. Facebook likes you when you get people to engage with Facebook. Facebook likes me because I engage with people a lot on Facebook. You notice I didn't email you today. I Facebook messaged you. I Facebook message everybody. That shows Facebook that I like their platform. I like getting other people to engage with their platform. Same thing. I mean, you've built your content out so people want to use Google to find you. Google sees that. Like, oh yeah, people keep searching, and when they search, they go over to see Brad because Brad's got what he wants. Well, let's move Brad up a little bit because we want people to think that Google has the best information. That's
exactly.
They don't go to Bing or all these other search sites because they can't get the best information because Bing doesn't have the best artificial intelligence engineers in the world. Google does. So you're in a way, shape, or form using their own artificial intelligence to build your business, which is, I dig it, dude. I really dig it. It's very authentic. If you guys haven't seen Brad set, like you said, he has thousands of lenders viewed every month. And if I was you, I wouldn't even be too worried. The amount of time and energy you put in to build it, most people can't copy that.
It's very difficult. Yeah, the amount of energy and effort it takes to get the thing going.
Right.
We were writing content, a couple times a week, which is for me is a lot. Some people could probably do it more often, but you want quality over quantity when it comes to marketing. Now, things have changed quite a bit, but you want quality. So I still didn't get to answer your question about trying to convert some of that traffic. So that 8 to 10,000 people that are visiting my site, a lot of them are industry people. There's a lot of consumers out there, and they're searching for answers. You've got, especially with the millennial generation, they're more independent, right? They're not as dependent on referrals. They want to go find, at least even double check online what maybe some other lender's telling them or their agent's telling them. So trying to get them to convert them to, I don't even call it a lead. So I think of someone who contacts me through one of my web forums, either calls me, I'll get text messages, or through my little app that pops up. So I've got like 4 different ways. They're asking questions. I don't really consider that a lead yet. I think it's someone just, they're literally raising their hand, asking a question, and now you get to engage them. And this is where the magic happens. You've got to learn how to convert, a live person basically,
right?
Who's asking a real question, and how you lead that person to build even more trust. Now that they know you're the real person behind the site, and then I find it's all about asking little questions. And I start out with one little question and ask them, and then ask another question, and then another question. It's a little bit tedious.
Mm-hmm.
You don't come out of the gate like someone asks a question about maybe a funding fee with VA or something. You don't say, well, send me all your 50 pages of documents and I'll help you out.
It's definitely hard to do. A lot of people try to do that online. They try to push very quickly, and they're like, yeah, exactly that. So,
little baby steps with the questions.
Yep.
And then you get to the point where they've got the trust. They feel like you're sharing real information, and they've probably a lot of people have already spoken to another lender by the time they get to me.
Right.
And you get to kind of show them up with giving them real information and convert them.
Right. I like it, man. So, if you guys haven't seen his site, definitely go check it out. We can sit here and talk about it all day, but it would be like talking about a Ferrari. It's like, you should really just go see it and turn the engine on and play around with it. I do really, just to compliment you. The quality of your articles, the simplicity of them, the way you drive the folks around and have them, try to schedule appointments and ask questions. Everywhere you go on their site, there's just a couple small places where they can reach out to you. You've always got your face and a contact number and a link to schedule. It's the capture part of it's cool. In fact, I'll let the cat out of the bag. I showed my company that, and I told them their site was not doing a great job of capture. I said, you need to be like Brad. Because our blog here, we've been doing our blog for 6 or 7 years. And I looked at the numbers that we got. They're nowhere near your numbers, but we have the same amount of traffic coming into the site. We've got 6, 7, 8, 10,000, but we don't have the hundreds coming out like you do. But we didn't have the capture part built in. But I guess my next thing would be, how do you take this and build something more? Or do you not want to build anything more? I mean, are you happy where it's at?
Honestly, over that amount of time writing that much content, you get a little bit of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
There's another gentleman who's in our circles, Bob Rutledge, who we have very similar marketing approach. He started blogging around the same time I did and learning from some of the same people. So he's got the same thing. In terms of do I want to go more? Yeah, I have a lot of plans, and there is more I'd like to do. It's just the amount of time. I've got a young 12-year-old son who's pursuing he loves baseball. So honestly, I'm really almost like a part-time LO. It's crazy. Right now, I go pick him up every day from school and drive him back. I don't start till about 9 a.m. And then he's usually after practice, so I'm driving to practice out at 3:30. So I'm not working very much.
But you're as far as I can tell, you're about as happy as you've been in your career. You don't have a whole lot of high demand agents. You got lots of folks hitting you up, and it seems like your applications and closings are going pretty smoothly. And you found a good model, you found a good partner in Charles, and it's cool. I mean, I like that part of the story.
Yeah. So things are going really well. I've gotten back into the for me the broker world works best, and gives me a lot of options. But so I have just one processor. I'm a solo guy. I don't have a loan officer assistant. I would like to find one. I think with the amount of leads that I generate, I should be doing 2 to 3 times the amount of fundings that I do. I don't find a lot. I'm probably the least successful person you'll ever have on your success story.
No,
right?
Yeah, that's my point though. Success has different.
Right.
I mean, I brought a brand new LO on a couple of weeks ago that hasn't had any success until the last 60 days. Okay. But the last 60 days, he's turned his career around, and I wanted to share that story. I mean, he never made 6 figures as an LO, but up till a few months ago, he hadn't closed more than 1 loan a month, and all of a sudden, he's got 6 in process and 15 pre-approvals. So I wanted to share his story.
That's good.
But same thing here. You built something that works for you and your family, and it's low stress, and it allows you to live the lifestyle you want. I mean, I dig it. I dig it a lot because a lot of LOs, that's what they want. And you could keep pushing and try to build this massive follow-up system. And, I know your partner, Charles, has been talking a little bit about Lion Desk. I'm going to see him at the VA lending conference. We'll probably talk more about it. Maybe there's a way he and I can help you integrate that in some way, shape, or form. But you may not want that. You may not want all those contacts coming in and the overhead expense of trying to hire somebody to manage it. You don't, there's always more money, more problems, right?
Yeah, more problems, right. It's a challenge to try and find a good licensed LO, and then trying to get them willing to work in this environment that I have. In California here, you have to have your real estate license, sales agent license to work in the broker world. So there's not a lot of those out there. Those that do have their real estate license and their NMLS, they're usually at the point in their career that they don't want to work as a kind of like a junior or an assistant, or I could just it's just trying to find someone. They want to work on their own because they can. So it's a challenge there. I would like to try. I've tried it at some other mortgage lenders, and it didn't quite work out where they had an assistant that would just it's hard to handle 125, 150 leads a month.
Oh yeah.
Just trying to go to work, filter through those, see which ones are the good ones, which ones aren't worth your time. And I've never put them into a follow-up. I don't have an email campaign. I've never, my worst nightmare is if I did have all that and then I sent an email up, I'd have 5,000 people try and call me in a week. Right. So that's kind of,
you don't have to throw the number out, but if you're closing 4, 5, 6 units in California and you're doing it in the broker model, you're putting $0 into advertising. There's a lot of folks out there that would think that's super successful.
Yeah, I'm happy making my $150,000 a year. Would I like 3 or 4? And I probably could. I'd have to certainly scale up, start hiring some people to take some of the load off, an assistant. I almost process all my loans. I'm chasing all the conditions, every single interaction you could possibly have with a borrower. That's me having it, and then also trying to market and answer leads.
But and I think you and I talked about this once on a Facebook chat, and I didn't prep you for this question, but part of it too is you focus on borrowers that you get along with. You don't spend a whole lot of time chasing people that just seem completely disorganized financially or just can't seem to follow instructions. And you spend time where you like to spend time. I mean, I noticed that you spent a little bit more time with the American Native Indian program because you had some good connections to that through your family, and that was important to you, and that's okay. And you didn't spend as much time on VA because you didn't feel like you'd mastered it. Your partner's okay, but I like that. You're not trying to be all things to all people all the time. You're like, what works for Brad, and what can Brad be good at? And sometimes you have to start here at this higher level funnel, and people fall out. And they don't fall out because you're not doing fair lending. They're falling out because, well, I gave them simple instructions to schedule an appointment. If they can't figure out how to do that, they're just not a good fit for me. So I dig it.
I'll give you a little some of the viewers or who's watching some tips. If maybe you're going to ask me this, if I could go back 6, 7, 8 years ago and do something over, I would have created probably several different sites that were more niche, just niche. Mine's a very broad site. I've got all loan programs on there. If someone really wanted to get into the blog content marketing game, I would go niche. Create a VA site, create a USD site.
Sounds like a conversation that Mark Madsen and I had just a few months ago.
Okay, yeah. So he was great at that. He was a genius at that.
Yep.
So, and that's we didn't know that very early on in 2009. It was more about creating a personal website.
Yeah.
And a lot of compliance have issues with loan officers having their own websites, and it's been a challenge for me. I've often been suckered into saying, "Oh yeah, your site's fine, not a problem. I've cleared it through compliance," and then they onboard you, and then 6 months later they're asking you to take that thing down.
Yeah.
And or your Facebook page down, or wipe everything from your from Facebook or wherever you're marketing your Twitter.
That's an important topic, and we didn't even talk about this before the call, but I've noticed, and we might have talked about in the past, that you really don't have a whole lot of any kind of trigger terms on your site, which leads me to believe that you spend a lot of time studying what you can and can't do. Or somebody told you not to and you got caught, which is the truth. But you're very careful about how the laws work, because you certainly don't want that site to get shut down for any reason.
Right. No. So, my site's been through several audits from different direct lenders that I worked for. And, as much as I didn't like them picking it apart, I mean, it's like someone, looking at your, something you've created, you're built, and then they're picking it apart saying you can't do this, can't do that, that's not good. And they're looking at it from a compliance perspective. Even the marketing people are telling me to change things, and it drove me nuts. But I pulled some out of there that was a very valuable, saying, they said you've got to change this, that, and the other thing for real reasons. Right. So I was able to make a lot of those changes, so that's been very helpful. I almost got like free consulting from some compliance departments for that. Right now in the broker world, it's just me or my broker need to manage that. I've never ever once marketed or quoted an interest rate on my website or anything. So I don't go after rate shoppers. I can pretty much compete there if I want to, but I don't do it because I really don't want to work with that type of borrower.
That's a good question. Never really noticed that on your site, and I haven't looked that closely. Do you have articles talking about interest rate shopping, or how to interest rate shop, or how all that works, or do you kind of avoid that topic when you're blogging?
Yeah, there's some information. I explained to them some of my favorite articles. So, when you're in the process with a borrower and they're asking you questions that you've answered 50 times before or more over your career, I'll often go back to an article. I'll have to search my own site because honestly I can't remember some of the stuff I've written, and I'll send them the link, which is great. I can only imagine what a borrower thinks when they ask a question. I send them the link to my blog site, and then they read the article that I wrote 5 years ago.
That's awesome. To me, that's Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
you've already addressed that.
Yep.
So I wouldn't. Those are good articles I wrote about. I think it's titled "Why You Won't Get the Lowest Rate," and it explains the loan level price adjustments, screenshots the Fannie Mae adjustments, explains to them the risk layers and all that stuff. So I'm very careful to never say that. I blame everything on Fannie and Freddie, FHA, as to why they can't do something.
Yep.
I'm always and that happens a lot in email interactions.
Uh-huh.
I never say, oh, our underwriters don't allow that. I never say that. You got to be very careful about your word choice. I believe in anything. It doesn't matter about blog marketing, anything. When you're communicating with a borrower, choosing the right words, because I always push it out on Fannie and Freddie, and I get into a lot of guidelines with people. So because they're being told something else from some other lender that's probably not accurate.
Yeah, that never happens. I know. I do that every single day, actually, in our boot camp program, every day, like most of the time. So I'm going to throw you one last curveball question, and then maybe try to wrap it up. I always tell people close to half an hour for attention span reasons.
Yeah.
So what's next? Do you think you might try to sell this at some point in your career? Do you have the site pixeled so that there's you can retarget people, or what's next for you? You're going to keep rolling with it the way it is and keep writing articles here and there, or
good question.
What thought about that?
So I've never done any pixels. I've never done a Facebook ad in my life. I've never nothing. I've never done any type of marketing. I've never paid for any type of marketing. I used to be a lead buyer, back before this. I used to buy leads, and that was from 2006 to 2008. That didn't go too well during the crash. So, I have all these grand plans, and I have it all written down. I have this.
You didn't buy U.S. HUD leads, did you? That was terrible.
I assume everyone has something like this, a booklet where you write down your ideas, right? And I have ideas from years ago. About my site, I keep a running list of blog articles to write, and that's a really long list that I've never gotten to because I'm a little bit burned out on the writing. But I'm only writing maybe 3 to 5 articles a year. So that's about it. What's next? So I'm going to explain to you how I chose my domain, homeloanartist.com. It's a little bit cheesy. I could have gone differently with the branding, some guy looking like an artist. But I wanted to create some concept of creativity from the domain. And you wanted keywords, home loan. I didn't go with a local like Temecula or Murrieta because I didn't know if I was going to be living here. So I went with homeowners, and I didn't use my name as the domain because someday possibly I'll pass this website on to my son, or I could sell it. I could probably I don't know what it's worth right now, but I could probably talk. There's people out there that can quantify the dollar amount.
You can just find some other guy that looks kind of sort of like you, change a couple images.
Right. Like my son, if someone else, I could replace his picture, and it'd be really easy to do. Like Dan Green, he monetized his site, right? He a big lead gen company. My understanding is he bought his site. I think he may still write some content on there. I'm not sure, but he's got a huge team. In fact, they've reached out to me. They wanted to hire me to go out there and start writing. They wanted me to move to Washington to go write for them. I couldn't do that. I'm already established here with family. So what's next? I'm just going to keep writing my few articles. I have some bigger plans that I can't really share yet, but it still has to do with blog marketing and a little more niche.
Cool.
That it's already generating business for me now. I just got to create another. I want to launch my next venture will be launching another site is what it'll be.
Cool. Well, maybe one of these days I can help you a little bit more on the follow-up stuff as we get deeper into that.
Oh, I'm so bad with CRM and email. I don't even have a workflow process.
Yeah. I'm not that good at it.
Here's my leads. This is my CRM right here. In fact, I misplaced it the other day, and I started almost having a heart attack because I couldn't remember.
I hate to say it, but for me, signing up with a real estate agent CRM like LionDesk, like I like it now because I get my leads in there and I take notes. So it's on my phone and it's in my computer. It's just I love the notebook too, though, because I think when you write stuff down, you remember it. So
Yeah, right.
I
Can you
agree.
hear that ringing? Sorry. You hear that?
Yeah, a little bit.
I can't turn it off. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. It's money calling, right? So
That's another lead.
that's awesome, man. So whether I get to see you when we're in San Diego or not, man, I really appreciate your time. I know everybody's is going to like this. They'll yell at me for not being able to figure out the live part of it, but I had at least 20 people that were excited to see this, and I had over 100 that asked to watch. So hopefully we'll inspire somebody to spend some time building content. I think that long term, the online game is something you got to pay attention to, and I mean, if somebody started now to get what you got, it might take them 5 or 6 years. I mean, let's just be honest. But if you got to start somewhere, so
right, it won't take that long. I mean, it could take 6 months to a year. That's if you're doing it right.
Right.
And there's a lot to learn. I mean, there's a lot to learn in terms of the SEO game.
Well, in today's world, would you tell them just to start with WordPress, or would you tell them to try something else?
Yeah, I would go right into WordPress, because I think converting, if you start somewhere else, you're going to eventually end up on WordPress, and you need a good host. Don't be afraid to spend money on a good host, because your site will get hacked. It's just bad. So you want to, I spend $30, $40 a month on a good host, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
But you'd want to start there, and then we're also going to say, if you start this and you can't follow it through, because it is a long game, you need to keep it going. Honestly, and I've told people this before, and it's not a plug for you. I always tell people, probably the best way is to go about with Facebook marketing. I'm a little bit envious. I wish I could do that in terms of lead generation, and but I've got my hands full right now. But if some new loan officer who's looking for a source for lead generation, I would go dive right into Facebook, and a lot of the things that you're teaching. I'm sorry.
TJ and I with Leads Academy.
Yeah, Leads Academy. There you go.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And then you've got the whole plan on how to follow up with those things, how to generate the leads, and all the different Facebook groups. That's money right there.
But it's similar to your game. I mean, you have 112 or 115 leads come in. You don't want to work with half of them to start with, and the half that do come in, you're really only going to want to work with 4 or 5 or 6 anyways. So on the Facebook ads, I mean, 1 to 2 to 3% conversion is really good for most people, and it's different. And this is where TJ and I have been playing with Google Ads a lot lately for this specific reason. People come in on Facebook, they weren't looking for something. They were watching their news feed, and they saw a button that said opt in, and they read something that looked cool. You just, you caught them as they were walking by. When they go to Google, they're specifically looking for something. That they have a need. And if they go, like to your site, yes, they're going to bounce around to other sites. That's what people do, right? But they're a little further along in the process. They've already made up their mind that they kind of want something when they're reaching out to you. So those type of leads from the guys that do Google Ads and in general have much higher conversions. It's not unusual to get 5 to 10% conversion on those type of leads. Yeah. The Facebook leads are a lower conversion, but it's easier to get them if you don't have those kind of Google skills. And if you don't have the SEO like you do, you got to pay quite a bit of money to move yourself up in the searches. So the guys that are good at the Google stuff, it seems to me, maybe Mark's got different numbers, but it seems like they're paying $15 to $50 a lead. And some of them can get up to 10% conversion, so the money makes sense. But it's a slightly different game. That's why we talk more about the automation in the Facebook leads, because it's harder to get them to engage with you in some cases. So we want to filter those leads a little bit with surveys, additional ads to see how serious they are. Perhaps move them to to things like your site, additional information sites, and that's what we do. We try to drive them to Facebook groups, or we try to drive them to articles or buyers kits, or give them more what they were looking for to build that relationship. So we're envious of people like you, because you have that site that helps build the relationship, whereas we have to build a relationship through Facebook groups or through email. Both are effective, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to do conversion without building the relationship, your numbers drop to less than 1%. And part of the beauty of what you have is that relationship building, like you talked about, that increases your conversion, anywhere from 3 to 10-fold.
Yeah. So. What's really helped my conversion is in a blog article, trying to get them to respond or fill out the little form or just ask a question is, in the article, I always try and dangle a little carrot out there. And my carrot is, compare other options that other lenders aren't telling you about. And, everyone's curious. I mean, that just raises their ear and thinking, oh, really? There's maybe another option out there. And, there are a lot of options out there. So I always throw that out there to pick their curiosity. And you might pick up some of that if you look through my site.
I like it.
You can do that with any type of content, any mortgage or with a house, or always asking them a question that they don't know the answer to. You've got to ask them a question they don't know the answer to, or it's going to place a little bit of doubt in their mind that they need to contact you, find out what that is, or how something else may help them. So that's the key to.
One thing I noticed that you do, which is very similar to what TJ and I try to do and teach, is that your site and your follow-up methods and your communication methods are all congruent. You're not bouncing people around in a method that's unbranded. Everything's always branded back to you, so that people feel like they're actually communicating with the same person and they're getting what they asked for. And that's a mistake I see a lot of people make. Somebody opts in and they send them an email, and the person can't even really tell from the email that came from the original source,
right?
Or they're texting them or something like that, and they don't actually describe in the text where the original source of information was. I've opted into your systems a couple times just to kind of test them, and it's your follow-up messages are very congruent. They can tell that it came from you and from your site almost every time. So I think that's important. All right, man. Well, we'll call it a day, and we'll let some folks watching. I'm sure you'll get a couple people reach out to you, and they'll tell you how they're going to get started tomorrow, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. But hopefully, we inspired somebody to build something that's a little better than what they had today. Hopefully, we inspired you. If you guys are in and around Temecula, you can buy Brad a beer, or you can maybe send a deal his way if you're not California licensed. So we appreciate you, bud. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, and ask a question in the group. It might be a good place for them to ask questions so other people can see the question. I'll try and reply there if they have a technical question or something.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you a lot, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
All right, take care. Thanks.
Yep.